Good morning, guys. So our joke today is, what do you call a bee who is having a bad hair day? What do you call a bee who is having a bad hair day? That would be a frisbee. A frisbee. You get it? Frizzy hair, frisbee. Got it. All right. Enough with the jokes. Let's get on to math. So today we're going to be, again, continuing to use the skills that we have to be successful in learning new things. So today we're talking about congruent figures. So a few things to talk about before I start drawing. But take a look over at the right side. You see my definition. It says congruent figures are figures that have the same size and the same shape. It's very important. They must have both the same size and the same shape. The figures could be the same size, but they could have different shapes. So our example of that would be D right here. D, when we're talking about a congruent side, we'll use this side as an example of our square and this side of the pentagon. They both are the same size. They both have the same length. You could get out your rulers and measure them, and they're both the same length. But they are not the same shape. One is a square and one is a pentagon. But if you see here over at A, it looks like one triangle has just been rotated a little bit. But we can, if you took out your rulers, you'll see that both have the same size. And you could also measure the degrees, and by measuring the different degrees, you would see that they are the same shape. So just to the plain eye, A and B look pretty similar, but C, that's kind of a big rotation. We'd kind of have to form it around so that you could kind of tell that maybe C, you'd have to do a little bit more work. But we know that it's on this side of the column, so that we know that it is congruent. And remember, when I say congruent, same size, same shape. So let me give you another example. Looking at the equilateral triangles, so remember, equilateral all have the same degrees, but it's the different size that makes it different. The length of this side does not equal the length of this side. So that does not make it congruent. And finally, if we look at F, it's the same thing. These sides, if you took out and measured, they would be the same length, but we see different shapes. And that's because we have different angles. We have right angles right here. Let me draw it here. But here we've got an acute angle. So they are not the same shape. So that does not make it congruent. So part of what you'll be doing is classifying congruent objects. Scroll down a little bit. So now what you need to do, make sure you answer number 1 here. But by now you probably want to have your math journal out. So I'll give you a moment to do that. And while you're getting your math journal out, make sure you've got your protractor. Now I gotta grab a protractor. Not draw on it. Here we go, our protractor. Make sure you get your protractor, and you could use the ruler that's on the end of it. You can see right here, there is inches, but sometimes we'll look at centimeters, so you probably want to get a ruler out too. So while you're doing that, our number 2 directions are, it says, draw wavy lines to connect each pair of congruent line segments below. Use a ruler to measure line segments if needed. So there's a couple different ways that you could do this. You could use a ruler and just work a line by line at a time. So the method that I'm going to do is really just kind of recording the length of one line and comparing it to the others. Ooh, don't want to move that. I want to move this guy. Hey, get back here. Alright, so this is going to be hot. It doesn't look like I'll be able to do that. But you guys get the ideas. Get out your rulers, or the other method that I was going to talk about is by writing on a piece of paper. So you could record that from this tip to this tip is a certain part of the piece of paper, and then you could try to match that up with any of these other lines. Okay? And make sure you look at number 3, that's a little different. You're talking about the same angles. Remember, there's two parts of congruency, of being congruent. The two parts is that you need to have the same size and the same shape. Really important. That's why I keep saying it. Okay, next page. So now we're going to be constructing, which means making congruent figures. So number 1, draw a triangle that is congruent to triangle RST. So what you're going to need to do first is you're going to need to measure your angles. So you're going to want to measure angle T, angle R, and angle S. That's really important. So for example, if I were to measure angle T, and I'm going to guess angle T is probably around, let's say 40 degrees, 45 degrees. Let's see if I have that. That doesn't say in my book, but let's say 40 to 45 degrees. Then I'm going to make sure that the line that I create is 45 degrees. But I'm also going to need to measure the length between TS, so that I'm going at an angle of 45 degrees, but that I go the length, the correct length. Okay? So that's significant. So make sure that you watch out for those things, measuring angles and measuring length. Let's scroll down, just a quick preview. Number 3, the plan below is for a paper cone with a glue tab. A paper cone. So this is something that you would get for like a snow cone. Ever seen a snow cone before? So all dimensions and angle measures are shown. Draw a congruent copy of the plan on a separate sheet of paper. Cut out your copy and tape it on top of the plan below. So you're actually just going to want to take a piece of loose leaf paper, or you could grab one of the scrap papers back there and trace those lines, and then you're going to cut it out, and then I got a phone call. Let's pause it. I'm going to have to just ignore it for now. Sorry, whoever that was. But make sure that you get the right measurements. We're trying to make a real paper cone. See if you can do it. So follow those directions closely. Last page. Moving on. Okay, rough sketch, and this is our last one. Rough sketch. So this is kind of like if you're going to have your younger sibling draw important information for you. This is what it might look like down here. So as you can tell, if we look at this, a lot of things aren't exact. A lot of it's just a guess. So for example, they're going to say about from point A to point G is 2 inches. Now if you actually measured that, that's probably not exactly 2 inches. So down below, you're going to want to create the exact thing that they ask you. So you want to make sure that line A to G is exactly 2 inches. And you're also going to want to make sure that it is 90 degrees. So you are creating something similar to above, but it's going to look a little bit different because you're doing the exact things. The person who drew this picture did not do exact. They did not draw it to exact specifications. So that's what you are doing. Okay, like I said, this is a quicker video. If you have any questions, raise your hand for help. Otherwise, keep going hard, keep doing well in school, care for you guys, work hard. See ya.